What's good, everybody? Scoobert, Doobert here. Super excited for this episode with Lindy Day. So Lindy's really cool because she is a touring guitarist, incredible guitarist, and a guitar teacher. She is exploring kind of what it means to be a guitar teacher in the modern era as well, with these 60-second mini lessons and also the deep dives with her. She's got awesome books, and she's doing some stuff for intermediate guitarists, which I remember when I was learning, that was like the hardest hump to get over. There's a bunch of resources for beginners. There's a bunch of resources if you're already shred. But then what about that middle area? And Lindy is doing that. And it was a really great philosophical conversation about what it's like to be a guitarist, what it's like to be an educator, what it's like to be on social media, and just growing in this weird 2024 world. Before I get there, I'd love to introduce our sponsor, DistroKid. DistroKid makes music distribution fun and easy with unlimited uploads, and artists get to keep 100% of royalties and earnings. You can use our code to get 30% off at distrokid.com/VIP/lovemusicmore. 1 million plus artists, including me, rely on DistroKid to get their music onto Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all the major streaming services. I love it because I'm able to add up my lyrics. It can sink in, and then when I'm on Instagram or on Spotify, you can see my lyrics, you can sing along. It's like karaoke. So check out DistroKid at distrokid.com/VIP/lovemusicmore and enjoy the episode with Lindy. What's good, everybody? This is Scoobert Doobert with Love Music More, and joining me is Lindy Day. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm really excited for this one.
I am too. I'm so excited to talk about the guitar, talk about music education, the interactions between fan and artists and that interplay, and we're just going to kind of dive into that. So what are some of the things you've been working on that you're really passionate about just kind of right now? I know you're in New York City, and how's life? What are you excited about right now?
It's good you asked right now because
cool. Yeah.
Most musicians we wear many hats. So
100%. Yes.
It's been a lot. But
yes.
Right now I have an album in the works.
Cool.
It's been a crazy journey to embark on that. So that's going on right now, and teaching's just in full bore. Mm-hmm. Teaching was happening in the pandemic, and it's still here. So
yes.
I apparently enjoy it a lot.
Well, you're great at it
teaching,
too.
Well, thank you. I never thought it would become my main thing, but you know how life goes, and here we are, and you're like, oh man, I really like this thing I didn't think I was gonna like. Yes.
And I'd be curious. How did you start with teaching? How did you kind of fall into that as part of your mini hats?
Yeah, teaching was actually it was suggested to me by a band member. This is when I was touring with just another band. I was in my early 20s. We were going all over the place. Yeah. But touring bands have dry months, like February or December. There's just not a lot of shows those months. Yes. So my bandmates were like, yo, you should probably get into teaching. So when there's not that many shows, you still have other income sources. Mm-hmm. So it actually started for me as a side, don't really focus on this, safety kind of a job. Mm-hmm. I didn't really have any background in being an educator, but I knew what music was. So I was one of those, which I think a lot of us start there, honestly.
I did too. Yep. Yeah. I did too. And you kind of, you learn on the job, you see what connects with students, different techniques and things like that. So you get your first student, I'm assuming guitar? Mm-hmm. Okay. How did that go? What was that like?
Oh my God. I had all the, ooh, you've never done this before. You're probably not good enough. You're just some little 20-year-old kid. What's going on? So I think this is pretty normal for a lot of performers who become educators. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of self-consciousness at first, but you get in there and then you realize the student is just as self-conscious as you are.
Yeah, right.
And then you're like, oh wait, I do have a little more experience than you. Maybe I can do this. Mm-hmm. And you come to find out too that teaching is really a job in people. It's not really a job in know your inversions as well as you can. It's really connect with this person who's in the room with you and check this out. Can you find a way to make them feel safe? Okay. Which I know sounds kind of crazy, but if you can get someone to feel comfortable with their vulnerability, they'll start asking really good questions.
Cool.
And when someone gets excited about asking really good questions, then music becomes like mind-blowingly phenomenal.
I like that. I really like that. That connects with me on a very deep level, because right now I am in the intermediate plateau, I guess, of Japanese speaking. And I can full on, have conversations, I can get around, I can do my thing. But there's that next tier of like, you can read a novel and you can like have a philosophical conversation, like a hard conversation that has been very difficult for me to bridge. And it's been, years of just kind of like moderate, slow progress. And I love that point of letting it out, being comfortable with what you don't know, finding a teacher that you're comfortable with, and then being able to fail loudly, ask the right questions, and stop them. Because I think part of what I found was I was accepting middle of the way answers. So I'd be like, I want to say this very specific thing, and they'd be like, here's like an easy way to say it. And so it's like I just kind of kept staying in that like little easier swimming pool, the kiddie, like kiddie pool.
Because this is safe. Because this is like a very safe answer.
Yes.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, it's like short sentences. But I've learning another language. It feels so similar to it. Like takes me right back to being a 12-year-old learning guitar for the first time. It's like the same problems, the same arc, just in a very different, less tactile way. And I love that. I love hearing that.
So I very briefly lived in Germany for like the duration of my visa, which I think was 3 months.
Yeah.
It was
That's not brief. 3 months? That's
3 months.
You're like you're like living there. Yeah.
I lived there. Yeah. There was like a family kind of event emergency going on. I had to go handle some stuff. And I real suddenly had to learn German.
Wow.
I just had to.
Yes.
And I would be going to this like hospital every day, and I started to learn the hospital staff really well. And they're like, oh, that's that girl who doesn't speak German very well. And, they brought the person who spoke English. And my landlord, luckily, was a German English teacher. So we would like do fast crash course, like, here's how you learn German. And I remember I felt confident enough with the people themselves, the staff at the hospital. And I felt confident enough with my landlord who was teaching me this language. I remember about like a couple of weeks in, I walked into the hospital. I'm not even going to remember what the German words were, but I walked right up to the staff and real confidently, I looked at like this acquaintance, this friend that I had, this staff person there. I looked right at her and I said in German very loudly, I was like, I am a question. And she looks at me and she goes, you mean you have a question? And I was like, no.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, totally.
So it's just like having that confidence to try something and you play with these new things that you learn about, and having the environment in which you can flex those muscles. Even if the muscle's wrong, like you said, try, like say something wrong, but say it loudly. Kind of wrong can be really fun too.
I've got some big news, everybody. My vinyl record is out. We didn't make a ton of these, so these guys are going to sell out, and I would love for you to get your hands on one of them because they're so dope. They're so dope. And it comes with a whole bunch of like liner notes and pictures and special stuff, the things that really went into making this record. And I want you to get your hands on it. So go to scoobertdoobert.pizza or check out my Instagram for a link, or click the link in the show notes or the bio or wherever you're watching this to pick up your copy. They're going to sell out. We really did not make very many of these, and I want you to have it. It's like a collector's item. So thank you for supporting my music, and I can't wait for you to hear it actually on physical vinyl. Enjoy the rest of the episode. Learning something on a flashcard versus actually saying it and using it in a sentence is so different. And I feel it's very similar to like learning an exercise or a scale versus using that scale to improvise and then like actually make music with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was a really hard leap for me as a guitarist, as a young guitarist, was like, okay, I understand, like, I practice a scale every day, but, like, what do I do with it? Like, how do I make music?
Yeah. Exactly. Like, it's a Lego block to me still.
Exactly.
And I want to build a castle.
Right.
Like, how do I do that? Yeah.
Yes. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the teacher things is the questions that my students ask determine what they're ready to learn. So some students come in and they'll be like, hey, I want to learn to play Dorian mode.
Yeah.
I heard my favorite songs in Dorian mode. I go, okay. What they're saying is, what are the notes? What is the scale? Like, how how do I play that? I'm like, here's how you
Yes.
play it.
Yeah.
And then I'll have some other students who will come in and they'll say, hey, Lindy, how do I use Dorian mode? Which is, there's one word difference between those two questions, but saying use Dorian mode is different than saying how do I learn Dorian mode? So at the point where someone's like, how do I use this mode is like a
Yes.
totally different world. That's a totally different answer. Like, I need 3 months to
Yeah.
explain this answer to you because it's
Yeah.
context at that point.
Right. Totally. And it's beyond the notes themselves. Yeah, it's the context, it's the what are like the PowerPoints of the not the like Microsoft
I
tool.
knew exactly what you were saying. Yeah.
Like there are certain notes in those scales that stand out and be like, I'm Dorian. Like, look at me. And like if you hammer those and you get them and you know when to deploy them, then you're doing it. You're doing the thing. It sounds like the thing. But it's really, it's a good point. Like it almost like, you have to get there before you can get there. Like in the same way that I should probably cut myself some slack for that intermediate trough or plateau that I was on. I probably wasn't ready. And so it probably was like, I just need to digest some stuff before now you can get out of the kiddie pool.
I think learning anything in context is one of the hardest. That's like the final step.
Yeah, it is. It's the final frontier.
To master something is like,
Yes.
I'm ready to use this in its final context. It's like, well, now you're speaking the language. Now you're
Yeah.
walking into this German hospital and having a conversation.
Yes.
Like now you're reading a book in Japanese. Yeah,
Yes.
that's the final step. So
Exactly.
it's okay. Yeah, it's okay to not be ready. And I think it's okay to face yourself and be like, I'm like not ready to have this piece quite just yet. But still knowing and understanding you're at that mid-tier, like you keep saying kiddie pool.
Yeah.
That's okay. There's nothing wrong with not knowing something. You know?
Right. And that might be too derisive. For a long time, I didn't even think I ever wanted to become an expert at speaking Japanese. I just wanted to be able to go to a bar and just like talk to somebody. And just
Why
have
Japanese?
fun.
That's so.
I don't know. My real thing. So my easy version is I liked Japanese media when I was a child. I didn't realize it was Japanese media at the time. I became an adult and realized that a lot of the stuff I grew up with was from Japan, and that was pretty neat.
Wait, like what kind of stuff?
Like video game, like Pokemon. Like I was obsessed with Pokemon.
DBZ and stuff like that.
DBZ,
Yeah,
100%. Yu Yu Hakusho to this day is like one of my favorite animes. That's like my. You know how people have their comfort shows, like a big event happens in somebody's life, and somebody might rewatch Gilmore Girls or something like that. Yu Yu Hakusho is that for me, where it's like it's always there for you.
I'm so glad you have that.
I know, it's great. I watched that one in English though, because the English dub is surprisingly incredible. But so that's like the normal answer. My real answer though is I got sick. I got really sick when I was in college, and I was kind of dabbling with Japanese. And while I was sick, it provided like a comfort blanket to me. It was a thing that I could do because I couldn't play music. My arms didn't work because I had a nerve condition. I'm fine. I'm fine now. It's called Guillain-Barré. Sufjan Stevens actually had it most recently. It sucks. It absolutely sucks. It's basically like an acute, your immune system attacks your nerve cells, so you lose all motor function and stuff. So I couldn't do any of my stuff. I lost every gig.
Do people recover from this, or like are there some people who never?
Some people never recover from it.
Oh my god!
I was lucky because I was like 20, you know, so I could bounce back. It took me like 6 months, and it was hard, but I 100% recovered.
Wow.
But like Japanese was like my thing because I couldn't play music. I didn't have anything else. So I could listen to music, but like that kind of drove me crazy because it's like, I want to play it. I want to learn this. I'm like in music school. But Japanese like provided me that extra thing to be obsessed with. And then when stuff got hard, or I was like having a procedure or something that was painful, I'd be able to like count in Japanese up to 100 and I'd be like, I did it. I got to 100.
Yeah, that really was your safety. You'd like go there in your mind.
It was. And so for the rest of my life, it'll inhabit that, that area, you know? And then so it provides such gratification to be like, I'm doing it. Like that was a terrible time, but from that, this beautiful thing came.
That's great.
Thanks.
Oh my God. Because people ask musicians all the time, like, do you have hobbies that kind of like counterbalance the music thing? And that is a little, not more extreme, like you were in a very extreme situation, but that's, I see what you're saying. It's like the difficulty of music, or not the difficulty, but it requires the focus of music, but in a different element where you wouldn't really need nerves. Oh my
right,
God.
I know. It sucks. It sucks. And I feel for the people that have that. I feel for everybody that's got autoimmune diseases and stuff because it's really freaking hard and super weird. It's your own body doing it to yourself. But it also, like, I think there's an aspect to music learning, and this is why I recommend it to everybody that has the desire. You don't have to be great. I feel the same way with language learning or whatever is even those small incremental steps are so rewarding and so cool. It's like you can do that now. And you might practice all day, and by the end of the day, you still can't do it. But then you go to bed and you wake up, and for some reason, your brain just go for it.
Yeah. Well, once it's yours forever too.
Yeah.
And that's like, okay, there's this thing online like beginner, intermediate, I'm advanced, I'm an expert. And they like want you to check the box when you're signing up for this new course. And I understand why that exists. That's to help categorize large groups of people. I get that part. I teach one-on-one. So I'm in a blessed setting where I don't have to put people into these groups because I see you as an individual and I view you as such, right?
Yeah.
All we're doing with these individuals is what skill do you need to enhance next? I don't care if you're a beginner. I don't care if you're advanced. There's some skill everybody needs to advance with next, right?
Yes,
so language, I know 3 months worth of German. Like I don't know language at all. But I imagine it's the same. Once you learn a skill on guitar, once you learn a mode, once you like learn how different time signatures work, you have it forever.
Yes.
So yeah, there is no like beginner, intermediate, advanced. Just learn some stuff.
Totally.
And then it's yours.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then finding ways to play with it where, like you don't have to have the most advanced grammar or the most advanced scales. If you just like know how to use them and play with them, and like you never have to develop the bag that John Coltrane had. I know I never will. I'm not going to practice that much. I'm just not. He's amazing, and I'm pretty good. But like, know where my limits will be, but that's okay because I will work on my own vocabulary and ways to spin that together in a way that'll be unique from his vocabulary. And they're not directly in competition. you know?
Well, that's what the art and the creativity is. And this gets into a weird concept where we're all working with the same, not rule set, because music theory is not a rule set, but it is an organizational system, right?
Yes,
so I'm going to say like we're all working with the same, we'll say 8 notes. We'll pretend we're doing 8 note scales, okay? We're all working with the same 8 notes. Yeah. But the way John Coltrane is going to use, I know there's different scales with different amounts of notes, but the way he uses his notes is different than the way you're going to use yours because that's what creativity is.
Yes.
So this gets kind of cool because you learn the Lego blocks, let's just call it that.
Yeah.
You learn the fundamentals and then it's your choice to implement them how you want. And that's where like learning really goes away and it becomes exploration. And like there is a stage everybody needs to learn and you need to learn what a scale is and how 6/8 time works and that's great. But then once you understand that, you really do get to play and explore. And like, have you heard people say, oh, I don't really practice anymore. I just kind of explore and I just kind of write stuff at this point.
Yes. Like
sometimes people will get to the point where they'll start feeling like they need a different word for that. Like, it's not really practice.
That's a good way to, because that's kind of where I'm at, sort of. I still practice. I mostly practice other instruments than guitar now at this point.
That's cool. Like what?
Bass has been my main thing. Since the pandemic, like I've just gone all in on bass.
All in. I love it.
All in. Yep. And the biggest thing has just been the right hand technique, left hand, like mentality and right hand technique have been the 2 biggest things. I'm also practicing drums. I'm not very good at drums. So a little bit of keyboards, but keyboards for me mostly are a like support role in my arrangements. There's occasionally they step out, but they're usually like to fill frequencies rather than to be like a huge part. They're almost like function like a string or a horn section in my arrangements. So I don't need to practice that as much. It's more like just, be creative, like you're saying. But on guitar, I don't know. I sometimes think about that where what do you do next? Because I don't really have a ton of interest in virtuosity anymore. I mostly have interest in interesting combinations of notes, creativity. And so I think that's what I practice most when I do practice on guitar is like really thinking about like how can I do new shapes? How can I do cool voice leading within the guitar, so that it's not just kind of like, I know a G chord, I know a D chord, I'm going to move it up here, I'm going to go between. It's more like being way more intentional about every single note that's moving in the triad, so that it like kind of is like thinking like a piano on a guitar. I think that's like my version of practice now, though, is like just trying to execute the linear and melodic ideas that I have as a musician on my instrument.
But I love that. And it's like, I love talking about people's creativity because you're all different and weird. I don't know why I say you all, because I'm in this category too.
It's like we were saying, the royal we,
Yeah, we are all different and weird. And like that, it's just, that's your thing right now. And go on your, get on your ship and sail your ship. Who cares if you're being virtuosic in any instrument or not? That is a skill set you can be a virtuoso in.
Yes, yeah.
And that's cool. I don't really think that way. So that's what makes your creativity different than mine. And I think bringing awareness to that is like, this is what I need to explore right now. This is what I need to express right now, because it's going to make some beautiful art at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's like why we do this thing. You know what I mean?
Totally. And funk guitar, actually. I should have said that. I've been practicing funk guitar for the last 10 years.
Okay, you're in it.
I'm in it, but I'm not where I want to be yet. Is what.
Okay.
But I feel pretty good with funk guitar now.
It's kind of crazy, kind of fast.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool. The biggest change for me, honestly, was getting into these Fender thin picks.
You're killing me.
Blew my mind.
Why are those so mind-blowing?
It changed the way that I approach the instrument by just having this little weird, look how flexible this thing is, just for the people that are watching our video podcast or are listening right now and driving, it's like, pull over, look at my pick. It's because so I usually play very heavy picks. When I hit a string, it's very like defined and definite. When I play with a thin pick, it makes the guitar feel more like a tambourine. And I play it like that. Like, it's just like, it's looser. It opens me up to just be like less aggressive, more touch. And then I also play less like blocky chords and more little tiny shapes, like triads, like I'm muting more inside of a bar chord. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it like allows you to touch everything lighter. So you're just kind of picking around lighter, like a little.
Totally. In the same way, I'm playing with my fingers more. Just like, because I'm not great at it, but it unlocks another thing. It's like the left hand can do the exact same thing, or I can play with a heavy pick, a thin pick, or my fingers, and it's going to be totally different vibes. And that's what I'm here for. It's like vibes.
Expression of it all.
Yeah.
But your music does that really well. I got into your music recently, by the way. Like, you're kind of a new artist for me.
Thanks.
It just
so honored.
Should we tell them how we connected?
Yeah, we should.
Kind of
Why
a
not?
funny story.
Why not?
So I have put you actually on my driving playlists. Has been really nice.
That's great.
Yeah, I'll show you my playlist. It's called my
please.
GUI drives for long car rides, I think I called it.
Anyways,
that. Yeah.
Yes.
So I do this game with my followers where I'm like, hey guys, I'm going for a long ride. What are some songs I should listen to?
Yeah.
And everybody suggests all these different songs, and I get really good suggestions. And somebody said something like, you should listen to Bon Jovi, ? And I didn't know what to do with the question marks. I was like, I've never gotten a suggestion with a question mark at the end of it. So my response to that one was like, sorry, Bon Jovi, like you got questioned too much. I'm just going to put on my favorite Scoobert Doobert song. And I tagged you in that story. You saw the story.
I did. I did.
And then we started DMing, and here we are.
I love it. Yeah, no, I know. That's my favorite thing about social media is like when it's actually interacting and open and just opens up conversations. That's it's in it, like in its purest and best form.
Yeah. It's a weirdly small world. It feels really big, but it's like bizarrely small.
Yes, especially in music. Like I was just talking to somebody that one of my best friend's dads connected me with somebody because they were looking to get into music and wanted advice, and I'm like, I guess I can give you advice. But my biggest advice though is like, if you just stay in it long enough, you're going to start to know people. It's almost like attritional. It's like, just keep doing it. If you love it enough, you will. Yeah. And then you're going to meet more people, and then at the very least, it'll be more fun. There might not be more money, but it'll be more fun.
Well, okay, this gets interesting because I've actually been dealing with this one lately. So the pandemic, I had original music going.
Yes.
2019 oh, I had a band and we were going to release and it just dissolved. The whole project just dissolved. So that delayed me like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm here now and I'm like kind of establishing a band. It's really just me at this point, which is fine. And it's all going. Anyways, during the pandemic, I crossed over from my 20s to my 30s. And I'm now in this space where like I'm going to release music as a new debut artist. Like I've toured with people, but I've always toured in someone else's band. But I'm releasing music. It's my first solo album as a woman in her 30s. And I'm like, oh, you don't do that in this industry, Lindy. Do you? Can you do that? And like, it's just been a weird conversation I've been having with myself. It comes up a lot lately. Ultimately, I know what the answer is.
Yes.
The answer is it doesn't matter.
No.
But it goes back to that, if you love it, just keep doing it long enough.
Yeah.
There's still this like weird thought of like you have to be a certain age to be successful. And if you miss it at 22, you're done forever. And that's just not true. And I don't know, man. It's just, you just touched on a conversation I've been having with myself a lot lately. But just if anybody out there's listening and is kind of going through a similar thing, it doesn't matter. This industry is smaller than you think. There's great people in this industry. Sometimes you got to vet it. Like there may be weird experiences, but ultimately there are amazing people here. And if you do it long enough, it's been worth it for me. And I'm just glad I'm still here doing this thing.
That's good and valid and also needs to be talked about more. Because I think that the mentality comes from idol / like boy band, girl band kind of vibes. I think that's where that really comes from, where if you're going to be a sensation, you have to be X, Y, and Z. You have to act X, Y, and Z. But those gigs you audition for, those are not really the organic upswell of you write great music, you develop fans, and you have your own little niche, and then it grows. And I also think that with the internet, for a time, it was so focused on image and like being a sexy 6-pack person with whatever, and that's what's going to get you followers. But I think that transition is happening too, where I've seen older people, like retired people, having little breakout hits and stuff. Like I think that the like as an end listener, which I am too, I just want to hear great music. I don't really care like age. I don't care if the person's anybody, like whatever. It doesn't. It's an auditory art.
It's auditory, you know? Yeah.
And also, people are beautiful. People are beautiful no matter what. So.
Yeah, I think Eurovision a couple years ago. I don't remember what year, but I can't remember who this was. There was a guitarist. I don't remember the country, but I think he was 33 when he got like invited to play and perform on Eurovision, and like he was a TikTok sensation. So it's just been interesting. I'm not confident enough to say it's all changing because like obviously, you know, certain ages will have certain appeals, but also like it's not the end all. I think when you learn music, you can't do it all in like a couple years.
No.
Like I'm still learning stuff today. Do you know what I mean?
Same,
it's making my songwriting better. And like same for you too. I'm actually doing a lot of mixing and mastering on my own lately. Cool. That's been my thing. Yeah. And it's saving me money. Like that's a whole nother conversation. Do I want a producer? Can I do it myself? This is a question a lot of artists go through. But just having the time to explore that question and to go get those skill sets and to go really try and to like see what I want to do is very empowering because I'm going to choose. I don't have an answer to this yet. I don't know. Am I going to self-publish or am I going to go with like a studio and a producer? But just giving yourself the time to explore that option, I think is really cool. Yes. There's also people who want to have more than one instrument. And if that takes twice as long, right? Because you got to practice all this extra stuff. And like, you just can't do all of that at 22 or whatever. No. I'm not going to say you can't. I'm not going to use language like ultimate language. I'm just saying it's great if you can give yourself the ability to give yourself time, space, and just patience to learn all the things that you want to learn. Because it's valid. And I think people are making really good music. Oh my God, people are making really good music. Yeah, and the age is like... See, now that we're talking about it, I'm like, maybe the age is starting to matter less. Because there are musicians online who are blowing up because of TikTok and because of Instagram. And they don't have a label and they don't have management. But the music is really, really good. And like, ultimately, that is what we're here for, you know?
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't want to put it on other people. I just know that I couldn't. I needed time.
That's the way to say it. Yeah, same for me. Yeah.
You know? And I I wanted to make music on hard mode. I wanted to mix and master. No, I don't want to master. I don't want to. I need somebody. I need somebody down the chain that could do like make sure that I'm not crazy. I've got that's all. That's the only person in my chain that I have. I've got my label that I send for notes on my mix, and then I have a mastering engineer, and they're my like fail safes.
That's great.
Like for example, one of them was like, "Hey, there's no bass in this song." He's like, "Oops, I muted it. Thanks." I'll put that back.
You do need a fail.
You need somebody. But I wanted somebody put it on the podcast. You get more of your stank on it. Like I wanted to give all of my vision, and I wanted to put it into the song. And I knew that it would require me learning how to play bass, learning how to do some drums, at least learning how to drum program, guitar at the level that I wanted to be able to play at, songwriting, vocal recording, vocals, background vocals, all of the things. And all of those, like you're saying, they're unique individual skills that, especially in like the classical period of popular music, like classic rock and pop and Motown and stuff, there'd be people that would specialize and get super good at that one thing, and that'd be their life. And I want to be as good as they are, or close enough at, but then a bunch of people's jobs. That's gonna take some time.
It's just gonna take some time, and there is no wrong way to do a music career.
No.
So whatever setup you have is, Yeah. I think that's great. That sounds like a lot, man.
It has been a lot.
Like a lot for you.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
It still is a lot. But it's done now. Like I have the skills, so I better use them. Like I feel like my past self would be pissed off if I quit now, because like you're like, well, you just put in all that work and then you're just gonna stop making music?
Yeah. It's like the people who are like, I got my degree for this and I don't even use it.
Yeah, I know, totally.
No.
And it's like, so you're just going to spend like tens of thousands of hours and like forgo having normal jobs and all these opportunities or whatever. And then you're just not going to make music? It's like, bummer. So I can't do that. I made a promise to myself as a teenager.
My teenage self must be respected.
Exactly. Yes.
Good. Your teenage self that watched anime and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I want to make him proud, I want to make him proud. Like,
I'm glad that you want to make him proud.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Oh my God. Think about my teenage self. Wow.
Right?
Dude, I thought I was just going to be ready. I thought...
16-year-old
Lindy thought she was going to be like a rhythm guitarist in some band like Fall Out Boy.
Yeah.
I was like, if I can do that, if I could just be in Fall Out Boy, I'll be successful.
Yes. Oh, I know.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I was so much better. I was on the thing of like, I just need a great producer, or I need somebody to fill in the gaps. And I think that is the case for a lot of people early in their careers. So like you're saying, like mixing for me took like 5 years of really bad mixes to
5 years.
Yeah.
That's like college. You know what I mean?
Right. Seriously. Yeah. And now, over the last 2 or 3 years, I feel pretty good about mixing. And it took people telling me like, no, you have to keep mixing, because I'd give up. I'd be like, I just want to send it to someone that's good at this. Like, I'm so sick of putting my heart and soul into arranging a song and then mixing it poorly and everyone hates it.
I hear it. Yep. I hear you on that. I think there's empowerment in that. When my band went away in 2019, I kept trying to find another singer. I was like, this is like the billionth singer I've worked with. And I just couldn't, in the pandemic, I just couldn't. I was like, screw it, I'll take singing lessons. So I've been like studying singing for about 3 years now.
How do you do that? Just, I'm sure people are curious. Improving your singing voice.
Yeah, you have to understand where I come from, because I have never, ever, ever in my life been a strong singer. Not even close to it. Like, I feel like I start behind where everybody else started. So it's, okay, look, I'm a guitar teacher. That's like what I've been doing.
Yeah.
One of the things I say to my students all the time is trust the process. Like, if you ever feel doubt, just trust the process. Keep going, right? And I was like, oh man, I'm sitting in the student chair. I'm like doing all these vocal exercises, and I'm like, they sound horrible. Because I'm filming myself.
Yeah, right.
Filming your vocal exercises. And I listened back to it, and all I remember was like, just trust the process. Just trust the process. Because you have, here's where it comes from for me. You have a sound in your head of what you want to sound like. Like, okay, if I'm going to do this career, if I'm going to be the singer on my own, I need to sound like this level. And I was so far away from that 3 years ago. And it's like, just keep going. You said yours was 5 years of mixes, right? I'm on year 3, and I'm just starting to feel like on year 3, I have maybe 7 notes that I feel really comfortable with. And I'm like, okay, the tone is good on these tiny little group of 7 notes. I feel confident hitting them. Sometimes I'm a little sharp, and I know where that's coming from. I can identify my mistakes now, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, I hope this isn't sharp. Now I'm going to be like, oh, you tensed up. This is going to be sharp, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that is cool. That is
so
cool.
Sharp, right?
But, I know, but it's such a big part of the battle of just being able to hear it. It's so hard to hear it, especially as you're doing it live in the moment. It's easier to like listen back on the recording and be like, oh, that was bad. But like when you're doing it and be able to like correct or realize you're tensing up. Like I had that problem too with, I would sing sharp because I would put my shoulders up when I would sing because I was nervous. Just like rolling your shoulders back and then
you
like.
Just gotta like relax everything. Yeah, I can feel if my diaphragm starts getting not connected to the apparatus up here. I'm pointing at my throat if you can't see. If the diaphragm starts getting like just physically disconnected, like I'm not breathing at the same time, I'm relaxing the throat muscles and stuff, I know I'm going to lose some of my pitches. And I can feel that happening now before it happens. So like, you know, there's just, singing's a weird one for me, because guitar is just like, put your finger in this place. How much pressure are you putting on it? Okay, cool, you have a note. And it's very mechanical. Yeah, there's an extra like you said, roll your shoulders back and don't tense up for singing actually makes a huge difference.
It's so, it is so not mechanical where, what did you eat that day? How did you sleep? Were you sick recently? Were you in a loud environment and having to talk over a crowd? It's like all of these things change what comes out and how hard it is to make it come out. Even if you know what you want to do in your head, it just gets stuck in the throat. It just doesn't present. And yeah, trying, like, the biggest thing is trying to figure out, like, okay, where's my voice at today?
Yeah.
What can I do? And how do I work with that? And how do I make these real-time adjustments? It's way more like athletic. It's like, I feel like basketball players, like they shoot a shot and it's like, some days you're going to have a little more legs than others. So you have to like do more arms or, you know, different motion or whatever, more backspin, less backspin. But you have to be able to do all of that in real time as you're singing a song, like trying to emote to people. Yeah. It's hard.
I remember when we were touring, I'd get so excited before like certain shows. I'd wake up at 4 a.m. and be like, the show's today.
Yes.
No, go back to sleep. And I couldn't go to sleep because I'd be so excited. So I'd do these shows on like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And I'm like, dude, you have to sleep.
Yeah.
But there was like a time where I was navigating how do you perform a show on like a little bit of sleep. And I remember going into it. It was with a positive attitude. It wasn't like, oh, something annoying woke me up. It was like, no, you were excited and your body just couldn't relax. So get to the show, do the show. And certain solos would come up that were more difficult than others. And I'd always be like, okay, you're working with less sleep right now. This big solo is coming up. Here's what you're going to do. The 2 measures before the solo, I'd actually drop out. So like the rhythm, guitar, I would just like stop playing for a second. And I'd do that, like go introverted for a second and just kind of check in with my mind and like my body. I'd take a deep breath and then I'd step on the lead patch and then I'd go play the solo. Yeah. But I remember connecting that just on days where like I needed a little extra kind of push. And singing is like that times a million. Yeah. That was just guitar. Yeah. Yeah.
I've so been there. Been there in those moments of like, and the power of being able to drop out for a second. That's one of the coolest things I think about guitar. We're important, but the train keeps running without the guitar most of the time, and that's a really powerful thing to know, like, okay, or like, you know, change something up, or, you know, just if you have a really great bassist and drummer behind you, like you're in the cradle and that feels so much better. That's when you can play those incredible solos or take off to an improvisation tier that you wouldn't be able to reach on your own. One of the hardest things that I find with soloing to program drums is it's just not quite that like feeling of other people vaulting you, like a gymnastics at the Olympics right now of like, just send me, you know, like where's the trampoline? Like,
send me.
You have to gather it out of your own soul and like draw from it deeper to make up for the fact that somebody else isn't like emotionally pushing you to that next year.
Well, this is the like human element of it all. And it goes back to the Lego blocks analogy. Is like, okay, there's how many beats in a measure? Cool, there's 4. But when another human is witnessing that and looking at you in the room or whatever on the stage and being like, yeah, there's 4 beats in this measure, but this is also the measure before the solo. So like, look at me, bro, and you catch eye contact and you guys are like, it's the same 4 beats, but like we are putting some heart into these 4 beats and send me, baby. You can go.
Exactly.
You can go.
Give me that lift.
Yeah.
Have
Have you ever had a moment where you're like nervous on stage or in a performance and like how do you, or maybe not nervous, just like something happened? Like how do you deal with that?
The worst, I've got some bad stories.
No.
The worst one that ever happened was they didn't turn on the mains, so I was doing a whole performance. I was like, why is this crowd like not into it? And it's like
I clutched my pearls.
They were just listening to monitor bleed. That was the worst gig.
Wow.
I've had some other bad ones, but that I don't want to say all those words. But the worst part is when you're on an island, and the hardest thing is like what I'm doing right now with performing solo every once in a while. I don't have any help at all. And so what keeps happening, I don't know why, something will break right before I'm supposed to start playing. And it's really hard for me to performer now, where it's like I am an IT guy basically, of just like one of these connections is broken. Oh God, like I'm about to go live. Like leave the house music up, please. Like what? And it's definitely it affects you. It affects me mostly as a vocalist. And that's really what the beauty of having a team, having sound people, roadies, techs, like that community or another tier of vaults where I've had those tours where you have hotel rooms and guitar techs and they notice like, hey, I saw your pickup was a little loose. That could have fallen into your guitar. Fixed it for you. It's like, oh yeah, that totally could have happened on stage.
Yep. Well, when you pursue a lifestyle of creativity, you need space to explore that creativity. And it's all those little things. This is why artists get
Paper
a cabin
cuts.
in the woods to write their album.
I know.
They're just like, leave me alone.
I know.
Right? So like the IT stuff, I mean, you said it perfectly. I'm an IT guy. But in that moment, you need to be a creative.
You need to be a rock star.
Unfortunately, like that, you need to be a rock star. It's hard to be a rock star when you're like filling up your own gas tank.
I know. And that's okay. That's okay. And that's real life. But those are the things that, you have to like psychologically trick yourself. And, maybe you're going to lose the first song. Like, whatever. Like, but like, it's the same thing with the athlete thing of, you had a bad first quarter. Like, slide it off. And a lot of that comes from confidence of, I know I'm good at music. I've worked hard. I am good at it. I'm not going to give the best show of my life every single night. But I'm going to hopefully, on balance, accomplish more than your money's worth. Like I might have a rough start, I might have a rough middle, or I might forget the lyrics, whatever. I'm human. But having supportive fans in a supportive environment, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about that, like that fan artist kind of connection and that mentality. Because I find that really fascinating of just like what that connection,
It's okay. The fan artist mentality has been kind of weird for me, actually, because I got on social media in the pandemic, teach 60-second guitar lessons. And it went viral. I'm so excited that people are so into learning and stuff like that. So a lot of my audience, I have a weird mix because it's people who've seen me live. It's people who knew me from like the days when I was touring, but it's also people who have joined my social media because they're like, oh, I can learn some cool stuff here. And like, it's cool and it's fun. So it's really interesting to me because I see this blend of these two very different audiences hanging out on the same platform. And that's what's interesting to me is you can see kind of the different mentalities starting to emerge. It's not good or bad. It just is what it is. But music is a tool for communication. Music can express an idea and an emotion, right? So that's where things get really interesting because when you're teaching, you're not really expressing like a message. You're more being like, here's how you can enhance your creativity, which is also important. But every now and again, I'll teach like a song I used to play live or something like that. And someone will pop up and they'll be like, dude, I was at your show in Sacramento when you played this song. And I'm like, you guys are crazy.
Cool. That's awesome.
So yeah, it's, I don't know. It's been a really weird, like the pandemic has turned everything left, not in a bad way, just in a way I didn't expect, which has been kind of interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the live thing is connected to that too. Of like where did you know, everybody went to a different place with the pandemic. I feel like I retreated into recording, and it's like it's time. Go out, be a live, real person in the real world, not just on the internet. Sorry to interrupt this very important broadcast, but it's time for one more advertisement for myself for this podcast. What I'm asking for is for you to rate it 5 stars, share it with your friends. This is like the most important thing for this podcast to grow. So if you want to do this, you go onto the podcast screen, right? You click on the ... on Spotify. Under there, it says rate show, and you go and you click it 5 stars. If you could do that for me, that's the best way for the algorithms and all this stuff to share it out with the world. I know that it's a lot to ask, but if you could please just hit those 3 dots and then a 5 star, it would really help us out and helps us, get the word out and spread the love of music. So thank you. If you're listening on YouTube, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you so much. And here's the rest of the episode. I'm interested too to hear about your album. Does that feel like a return, like the almost like one of those final moments of pandemic trend or whatever? Yeah.
So this is a trend, like everyone sees it. There's so many new artists and bands and so many new everything coming out last year and this year. There's a wave.
Big wave.
Dude, jump on the wave. Like if you out there have been thinking about dropping music, like do it. There's a huge surge right now. And first of all, I'm just really proud of all my friends who've done live shows this year or last year. Oh my God, it's exciting to watch everybody come out of the pandemic and do this.
Yes.
There is a different way people are consuming music now. It's not that much different, but I feel it. I don't know if you feel it too, man, but like there's this fierce need to be back in a live setting with like a crowd around you. There's like this desire people have right now, and it's mind-blowing to see. People are just coming out in droves to watch live music this year. That's been really cool to watch.
Yes.
For me, for my album though, I've been wanting to do a solo project forever, and it's just been one thing after the other for whatever reason why it didn't go. Even before the pandemic, there was a live project, and it's fine. It didn't happen. It's that story where you've tried something like 7 times and it doesn't work 7 times, but the 8th time it's going to work. And I feel like we're here. I don't know. I just feel like a lot of energy has been carried over from the pandemic. The word I use a lot is dissolve. I say my band dissolved in the pandemic. And now that we're kind of talking about it, it maybe wasn't that. It maybe was like it was always there under the ocean, just kind of waiting. I feel like now the energy is just coming right back to the level it used to be. Does that make sense?
That does. Well, I like it too because for a while I was thinking about like what's the next step, and a lot of what I was internalizing was, okay, what am I most afraid of? And that's like a good logical, at least thing to be on the list. I still sort of feel that way. I think that fear can point you in interesting directions and can sometimes be the loudest thing that you should be doing. But then the other side of it though, and what I'm leaning into more is like, what do you think you could stay up until 2 a.m. or wake up at 4 a.m. to do? Like, what is the thing that gives you the most energy where you go like, crap, what time is it? Like, I've been working on this for how long? And pointing the ship in the direction that will give the ship the most like wind in its sails, you know? And that shifts, that wind is shifting, and sometimes it might be more podcasting or writing or whatever. And sometimes it might be original music or collaborations or remixes or productions or mixing or whatever, all the little things that I do. But just kind of like being open at the beginning of the day. Okay, like what's inspiring right now? It's been feeling really good, especially as like work is piled up, and I felt that feeling of like I don't want to do anything because I have to do everything.
Oh no. Yep, I know what you mean.
And getting over that for a while, I was trying to be like, okay, like what is the number one thing on the list that I'm avoiding the most? I should do that. And yes, there's still some wisdom in that, but that's a grind in and of itself. Now it's instead like looking at the list is like, okay, which one did my eye linger on?
Oh, interesting. Got it. So got it. So what has that been for you lately? I mean, what has that item been for you on your to-do list?
It's been making music that is further on two ends of the spectrum.
Okay, talk about this more. What?
Yeah. So literally this week, I am working on a 170 BPM drum and bass remix of a band in Tokyo and a cover, an original, like my project Scoobert cover of Easy by the Commodores.
Okay.
Just like one is literally like smooth R&B that you can drive to, and there's like very little abrasion except for the guitar solo. Yeah, fuzz. Yeah. And then the R&B, or then the drum and bass one is like literally the most frenetic, intense, like I'm in a sweaty Tokyo club, like kind of music. And I've just been bouncing between the two, and that's what's been animating me. Is like I'm gonna pour some water into the chillest thing I've ever made, and then pour some water into the craziest thing I've ever made, and then at the end of the day, I'm like, I'd do that again. That was fun.
Oh my god! So I was about to ask, how's that going for you? But you just said that was fun. It's awesome.
It's awesome. It is awesome. No. I'm sure that my wife hearing these things come out of my speakers, like, what the hell is going on up there? But that's what's been animating me though. Is like, I was feeling a little boxed in by what was doing well on Spotify. Of like, people are listening to these songs. Should probably make more songs that sound like those songs. And then I'm like, oh no, am I like always gonna just be making this music?
The second an artist is like, you're boxed in, our minds are like, no, let's do the opposite.
Free me. And so, but then my answer was like, okay, what if I went harder into the box and also like way harder out of the box at the same time? And that's what is like allowed me to do both. And then the going deeper in the box also feels like kind of punk of just like, this is what you want from me? Like, let's go even deeper. Like, how chill can I get, you know? Like, how
Challenge
California
me, bro.
can I be? Yeah.
The creative mind is so dangerous. Oh my God.
I know.
Like, you put up a boundary and the creative mind's like, okay. Just like dig a hole to get out and you're done.
I know.
Cool.
Totally.
Wow.
Yeah. And hopefully the people who like my music will like both. Some people won't, and that's okay. But like, my music has always been like this, and I picked the stupid project name Scoobert Doobert for a reason, so that I wouldn't become the guy that was like, I am Mr. Poolside Music, whatever. No hate to the guy that's saying Poolside. His music's actually cool. But like, I did that on purpose. I didn't want to like brand myself as Chill Vibes Man. Yeah. But it turns out that people like the Chill Vibes, and I like the Chill Vibes too. So like, it's cool. I'm down to make that. I like making it. I'm glad people like it. I want to be driving music. Like, I got a side monitor, and I will watch like nice drives or nice train rides while I produce some of that easy listening music, like the chilling music. Because it's like nice. It's just nice, kind of almost scoring to a picture of like the Pacific Ocean going by on a train. It's like, ooh. All right, like, yeah, I feel a different guitar part after that, you know?
You're like in a setting, you like make a little safe space for yourself.
That's what makes it end up not feeling like I'm, I don't know, playing to an algorithm or a crowd. It's like, I'm not doing that. I actually like this music, and I'm putting myself in that place. And if that happens to be successful, that's awesome. But I also don't always want to be in that place. My brain, it fires too frequently to do that.
The excitement you have of just describing, like, so I'm writing a song with two extremes in it. I'm like,
oh no, two different songs. Two different songs. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh shit! Did I just totally misunderstand what you said?
I think you might have.
I think I might have. Wait, explain it again.
Yeah. One is a drum and bass remix for a Tokyo band, a rock band, separate song, and then another one is Easy by the Commodores. Take it easy on a Sunday morning.
You're saying you're doing two simultaneously, but it's not the same song. Exactly. Now I understand. Got it.
Exactly.
What I was going to, this doesn't change my statement, but what I was going to say is like the excitement that you have just talking about this is like, oh my God, I want to hear what you're doing.
Yeah, cool. Good.
Passionate about it. That's cool.
I am. And it's like pushing me too, you know, like that's the other thing is I like, if music isn't pushing you, then the creative mind gets frustrated too, because it's like kind of bored. And, you know?
Stagnancy is the enemy. Yo. So, okay, do you do the thing where you write guitar solos that are just a little bit outside of your skill set? So you have to practice this new technique to go record the solo?
Yes, absolutely. Right? Yeah. I've been doing this weird thing where I am trying to play things that on their own would sound bad.
Okay, you have to explain this more. What?
So like if you soloed the guitar, it would sound bad, but it has like a certain energy in the mix and around the other things that it sounds dope. Like
wait, sound bad like mixing or just this combination of notes?
Like combination of notes and phrasing is just weird. Like I'm trying to take a little bit of that Frank Zappa sauce of like the instrument but you're gonna just go creative mode and connect to points that should have been connected like in an expected certain way, but in a way that just kind of a little bit more like okay, we're there.
Got you.
I've been trying to speak in tongues on guitar. Basically, I think is what I'm trying to say. In doses. But that's been my like new weird emotional spiritual practice is like.
Does that help you learn Japanese any better?
Yeah, maybe. Right? Maybe it's all. That's just my brain dying from too much input.
Perfect. That's fantastic. That's a wonderful thing. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's like now that you learn how to read municipal water works in Japanese, you are now I have to play the weirdest guitar solo of your life. It's like, okay, that's a deal.
Fair. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What are some of the techniques that you push to the edge of your guitar playing for a solo? And I've done this absolutely. Sure. What are some of the things that like? Do you have any examples? Like I don't know,
yes.
sweep picking or
I can't decide if I want to be metal or like pop or I don't. My voice is gonna make it pop. But I really write metal guitar lines. I don't know what genre this is turning into. I got a drummer who's just like a straight up alt rock drummer. I don't know what genre. It doesn't matter. Anyways, the solos I want.
Picture it. I can picture it.
Getting excited.
Yeah.
Good Lord. I tend to write solos in 2 parts now, which I haven't really heard anyone do this, but I'll do 4 bars with a jazz guitar solo.
Okay.
And then the next 4 bars will be the same melody rewritten with more overdrive, and it's a metal solo. But it's the same theme, but it's just written like a different genre.
Yeah. Cool.
So like for the listeners who don't know this like finesse about these, different styles, they'll just hear like a clean guitar sound being shifted to a heavier guitar sound is probably what it'll be seen as. But that's been weird because I'm not an expert jazz player. I'm not an expert metal player. I'm just like okay at both of those. So I'm now putting like sweeps are going faster than I actually can like perform them. So I'm like metronome every day. Let's get this going.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That sounds fun. That sounds fun to play too. Yeah.
It is. It has been really fun to play.
Yeah. Cool.
Because it's just been a cool expression too. Because I'm like, okay, if a jazz if a jazz idea is coming out here, that's saying something different. But if you take that melodic idea and deconstruct it and then reconstruct it as like a metal concept, the song itself just has these like big moods going on in the span of 8 bars. And it's a very like 1-2 punch. Just kidding. Going back to the chorus you've heard before, like everything's safe. Don't worry. We're not going off the rails here. And it's fun.
That sounds great. No, and I want more guitar solos in the world.
Me too.
I think we need to like redefine like what is a cool guitar solo in 2024. There are plenty of people like I saw Derek Trucks this year. I'd say he's my favorite living guitarist at this point. And he sounded like 2024, and I thought that was really cool. Whereas like this guy is playing blues, but it doesn't sound like he's playing blues in a time capsule. It sounds like he's interacting with what it feels like to be in the modern world and what music sounds like in the modern world, but he's playing an older, quote unquote, style or a style that is associated as like a historical timepiece.
That's been an interesting conversation that's come up a lot lately on social media.
How so?
It's crazy to me how separated we want these things to be. That's the weird thing for me, because other instruments, even other genres of guitar, classical guitar has a very long history of, this comes from this era, and like it's very specific, and they're very proud to play these older pieces that come from. If you ever go see a classical guitarist, it's not uncommon for them to tell you the history of the piece they're playing and then go play the piece. It's a very normal thing.
Yes.
Nowadays, it's very like, you play dad blues rock. You're not of us. And there's this like divide. And like, I don't mind classifying things as like, okay, this came from this era. This comes from the modern era. But the divide of like, we are not, that is is interesting to me.
Yes.
I don't know where that comes from, but it's been interesting to watch.
Yeah.
I wish guitar was a little more unified. It's interesting. I don't know.
It is.
Yeah.
And I understand. I feel like the part of that is how genres move forward, I think, is by rejecting certain things to an extent.
Do think
but
that's part of it. Yeah, here's how we define ourselves, but also we define ourselves by what we are not, is a very common thing to do it. I do think on social media, though, because we're on second, third generation of people who use social media. So I don't know if it's just louder on social media. It's more in your face. It's more like the memes are being shared at a faster level. I do always think that's been part of music, is we are not our grandfather's music. Sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It could also just be because I'm in the guitar influencer teaching world. I just get hammered with it every day. So maybe I have more exposure to it than an average person. But
yeah, I remember that a lot of people the butt rock thing, or people, people would make fun of me or tell me never to play a power chord, or,
right.
But I think that's fundamentally wrong. It's all context. There are plenty of times to do the jun, 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 rock and roll thing in a modern context. It's just got to be in the right place. If you're shoehorning it, then it's gonna sound weird. But there are plenty of moments in indie music or whatever that you could do stuff like that. I do it in my songs just because it's cool. I like it.
It's all just tools, right? You could use it in a really ironic sense. You could use it to tease a blues dad if you you could also use it to legitly say a message and to legitly convey an idea. The choice is yours, humans. Do what you must.
Right. Right. Well, one of the things I did during the pandemic was I did a song called Pandemic Blues because I was inspired by a Tin Pan Alley song that was called Pandemic Blues. But I wrote my own, and I did it like a classic blues song, but I played the weirdest possible drum part, Jay Dilla sort of inspired, but by me, not a very good drummer. And so it just sounded like this bizarro organism that was kind of had its limbs falling off.
That's great.
But it was cool. I thought it was cool. I don't know, not a lot of people listen to it, but maybe they will now. But that song, it quoted a bunch of those things to make it feel like a bluesier thing, but it was in a weirder context and about a weirder subject.
Right, that's great. I think that's fun though. That's super. Yeah,
it's in the bag.
Okay, something I've been getting into lately. I teach this way, and it bothers me when I go, okay guys, major is happy and minor is sad, and every now and again I lean on that because it's just the thing that conveys it the best to the student. I don't believe this. I don't believe this at all. So I wrote a song. It's a sad song. It's it's just a sad song, but I use the major third. Oh my God, it's so cool. There's this major third that keeps going on behind the whole song, but the whole song you think is in minor, and every now and again this major third comes up, and then I get weird with it and I throw a flat. What do we do? Then we went into some weird Phrygian mode. I just had fun with it. Yeah. But I'm doing that on purpose to show my students one day. Oh my God. I want to show my students you can actually use these major sounds to convey different ideas. It's not all just this, we say it's this way, therefore it must always be this way, right? Yeah. And there's same thing with genres, same thing with music theory rules. It's all just tools for you to use how you want. We're not AI, we're humans, and we can express however we need to.
Yes. And that reminds me of something. I was watching St. Vincent, Annie Clark, doing a guitar demo thing, and she played a minor second, which if people don't know what that is, the Jaws theme. Those two notes are as close as they could be to each other, and so when you play them together, it sounds like a jumbled, dissonant mess. But she was sometimes you need a little, and I was God, that's so cool. Of just the worst sound, but in the right place with the right guitar tone with the right attitude is exactly what the song needed. And it changed the way I've thought about guitar ever since.
Seconds are hard to play on guitar. They're physically hard to grasp.
They're physically difficult. Yeah, you've got to really spread that sucker out. Yeah.
Okay, fun fact. This is why guitarists add 9 chords. How nerdy are we about to get? I'll leave you on this. Guitars add 9 chords because they're physically easier to play. We tend not to go for 2 chords because they're physically harder to play. And that's really the legend of how 9 chords were made.
That's great. That's great.
Sure.
I mean, that's part of the reason. That's part of the reason why I talk the triadic thing is that I'm trying to break out of the shapes that I've known that have been in like guitar learning canon and trying to get to like, if I was writing each of these notes on a keyboard or on a sheet of music, where would I want it to go next? And even if my fingers don't want to go there, like I'm going to figure out a way, or I can record it and I can just do dyads on one and then add in an extra note that's too hard to play on another. I can multi-track. That's
not
cheating.
Limited by your physicality. And
yeah,
like,
exactly. Just do it. That's
again, the creative mind, just being like, there's a barrier here. Guess what?
Blow through
like, get on a plane and jump out of the plane and parachute around the barrier. Yo.
So I have one last question for you. This show is called Love Music More, and the segment is called Love Music Why. This is an opportunity to talk about why do you love music, what excites you about it, what keeps you coming back to it, and what do you want to share with people that animates you about music?
I'll answer as a fan and then as an artist.
Cool.
As a fan, I love having a united experience with a bunch of strangers I probably don't know. Being in an audience and going into like crowd mode, if you know what I mean, where you're kind of anonymous, but we all take on the identity of being in this fan base together for this moment in time is like, I don't go to church anymore, but that's the most church thing. It feels so good.
Feels so good.
So that's, as a fan, that's what I'm here for. As an artist, I think it's really important to keep sharing messages, so me personally, I'm trying to tell the audience their own stories.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing with my music. I think it's really important. I think the pandemic did separate a lot of us in good and bad ways. We got more online friends, but we lost there's just a lot of themes of loneliness is going around right now. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's important to address things like that, give people a show, like a live show, a place where they can come watch a concert and hear stories be told of themselves. So music is important, but also I understand the human element of it too. And I just want to reach people with the music that I'm writing.
That's beautiful. Where can people get in touch with you, Lindy? What's the best way to follow you? And then what do you want to talk about? I know that the 30 warm-up riffs is coming soon. Anything you want to talk about?
I'm stupid excited about this. I've been teaching so many one-on-one students. I handwrite warm-ups for my students every lesson.
Cool.
For the first time, I'm doing a 30 warm-up riffs for intermediate guitarists, and I'm going to publish it for like all of you guys.
Yes.
And these are riffs that are like literally tested by people, and it's just requests I see a lot. For example, hey Lindy, I have a weak pinky. What can I do to fix that? Hey Lindy, my picking is not that accurate. What exercises do you have for me?
Yes.
These are the most requested, things like that. Written by a guitar teacher who just is super passionate about what they do. That is coming. It's not published yet, but it's going to be up next month. You guys can find me at Lessons with Lindy on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. And you can follow my Patreon where I do both lessons, but you can also see me as an artist. Patreon is Lindy Day.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Lindy. This was an awesome conversation. Love nerding out about the guitar and music and everything in between. That was so fun.
Thanks, man. Yeah, this was a really good conversation. Thanks so much for doing this podcast.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's all just to spread the love of music. So it's good time. My pleasure. See you, Lindy.